down the track, as technology gets better, and if we maintain the current small block size, we're all going to be running a full node on our devices. And if you can imagine millions of people, inadvertently running a full node on their device, you're going to have a network that is impossible to stop.
All right, Aleks, welcome to the show. Good to have you here.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
How's everything going?
I'm going good, man. I'm usually a person that's in isolation anyway. I just, would prefer to be in self-selective isolation as opposed to forced isolation.
For the viewers who don't know who you are, who is Aleks Svetski?
Best description for me, maybe professionally, as a bit of an entrepreneur. I've been in business since I was 18. Tried many things, some quite successful, some complete failures. So I've had a bit of a roller coaster ride throughout my life. Most recently, though, so about 4 and a bit years ago, I really got involved and interested in Bitcoin. And I've had a background in sort of markets and entrepreneurialism and economics and all sorts of different things. So it was such a synthesis of all of these different disciplines that it's just continued to suck me in. And what I spend most of my professional time doing now is I run a company called Amber, which allows people to dollar cost average, which is a method of investing where you periodically invest an amount. So, $5 a day or $50 a week, $100 a month, whatever parameters you set. So it automates that process for people to invest in Bitcoin. So it's a little app. It's kind of like it's a Bitcoin savings app. I guess that's the easiest way to put it. And aside from that, I do a bunch of writing online. I'm about to release my next article. And do podcast talks, etc. So that's my primary background.
That's really cool. Actually, you've been writing one of my favorite articles called Why Bitcoin Matters. Thanks, thinking man. We're going to go a bit deep into that one in this recording.
Sure.
Yeah, but before going deep into Aleks Svetski and Bitcoin, I want to have a quick warm-up to get an understanding of where you stand. And I've actually prepared 7 which person you prefer or which thing you prefer.
Okay, so, cool. Let's do it. This sounds cool.
So Trump or Biden?
Trump any day.
Why?
He's got balls, and at least he won't forget that he's got balls.
Bitcoin or blockchain?
Oh, Bitcoin, of course. Blockchain's a fucking scam. It's just a distraction. And a little anecdote for people. Bitcoin was never a blockchain. It was just a term that got coined about 3 years after the launch of Bitcoin. And it was coined actually by a consortium of bankers, as far as I know, who were trying to, pull the light off Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's a monetary transformation. It's something that, it's a revolution in money. It's not a revolution in technology. So it's a bunch of old technologies that have existed for many years, but their unique combination and when they were launched, et cetera, is what makes it unique. And that's where the innovation is, not fucking blockchain. That's useless without, it's pointless without its use inside Bitcoin.
Roger Ver or Craig Wright?
Oh, am I supposed to pick which one I hate more or which one I like more?
The one you prefer.
Oh, fuck. That's a really tough one.
So how are you thinking about them?
I mean, they're both morons. They're both scammers. They both have no idea, what Bitcoin is.
Pick a winner.
I mean, maybe overall Roger did more net good because of his earlier influence. So maybe I'd just lean towards Roger on that basis. Whereas Craig's just been a useless piece of shit since the beginning. So I think I'll lean towards Roger there.
So do you don't think that Roger Ver deserves his Bitcoin Jesus nickname?
Absolutely not. No. The guy is Bitcoin Judas more than anything else.
Yeah. So Bcash or BCH?
I call it Bcash. It's the same shit, but yeah, it's. I mean, I call it Btrash, but yeah, let's go with Bcash out of the options.
Yeah, actually, I haven't heard Btrash, so but Bcash. BTC or XBT?
BTC.
What's the big difference there? Do you know, by the way?
It's XBT is, as far as I understand, it's just been popularized through BitMEX, which is their synthetic over Bitcoin, and it's just it's more of a ticker symbol, and I think that's more trader related, whereas what the actual denomination for Bitcoin is actually BTC. So that's what I prefer to use.
Vitalik Buterin or Justin Sun?
Justin Sun, actually, because I really can't stand Vitalik. I think he's a smarter scammer than Craig Wright. So Craig Wright's just an outright scammer, but he's a fool. Justin Sun is, anyone can see from a mile away that he's a scammer. But Vitalik is like a really elegant scammer. He's kind of like that chick from Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes. So people think like he plays the part so well, like, and everyone is so fooled and buys into his, persona and everything like that. So I would prefer Justin Sun because at least I can laugh at him, and he's a blatant scammer. Whereas Vitalik, I can't stand that kid.
Right, all right. So BCH or Ethereum?
That's a tough one. BCH or Ethereum? Look, I'm actually gonna go with Ethereum here because I just think a blind copy of Bitcoin is a dumber thing to do, and to sort of create more noise for people outside. Whereas at least I may give the Ethereum people the benefit of the doubt that there was some form of interest there in using the kind of Bitcoin ideology for applications outside of money, and that may have been innocently naive in the beginning, although it's devolved into just complete derangement syndrome since then. But I think slightly Ethereum over Btrash.
All right. That's actually very interesting because, like, what's like the biggest reason you don't like Ethereum? There are so many like Ethereum proponents out there saying like the economic activity is much higher on Ethereum and all these things they say that it's better performing than Bitcoin and such. Are they missing?
They're missing the whole point of what Bitcoin represents. So Bitcoin gave us digital scarcity, which is a foundation upon which to reinvent the financial, social, and economic systems around the world. Whereas Ethereum is just it's just taking what we've already got, doing the same thing, but just trying to do it on a global digital virtual machine. So it's exactly like the Federal Reserve or a government. So it's got a few cronies running the show. They make decisions at a whim, which is nothing different to how governments and central banks work today. There's no guarantees around, money supply, monetary rules or anything like that. There's they change their mind every month, so there's no, it's not designed to be a money, whereas today they're trying to use the money narrative. First it was a virtual machine, then it was an ICO platform, then it was for building collectibles, then it was for something else. So it's just this bullshit narrative of people trying to find a use for something that's similar to Bitcoin in terms of architecture, but has no fucking use. Like, Bitcoin was specifically designed to deliver digital monetary scarcity in kind of the same way as we've got one form of gold. Like, the reason all of the monetary premium revolves around gold is because it is the premium physical object that can represent something like money, and what money represents is our time and our effort. Now, the only reason silver had some sort of monetary premium is because a physical object has some limitations for divisibility and portability. Now, a digital object like Bitcoin doesn't have that limitation. So as a result, you only need one scarce digital object to act as money, and all the liquidity is going to converge around it. So Bitcoin delivers that, and its pathway to becoming what it is just cannot be repeated. And Ethereum is just this complete distraction from what the innovation here is, again, which is verifiable digital scarcity and a unit that is unconfiscatable, uninflatable, and uncompromisable. Like, that is the innovation. Everything else is just noise.
Many people, at least in my perception, think Bitcoin, the technology, is the thing. But as I understand, and as you also seem to understand, it's the monetary policy behind Bitcoin. And the technology in itself, it's just there to make sure that the monetary policy it can be there in first place.
Correct. Yeah. It's that, and it's also even more than that. It's Bitcoin's timeline. So like, there's a friend of mine, Robert Breedlove, he did that article recently where he compares Bitcoin to the number zero. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's a really long form piece, really good piece. And he writes in there the idea of how events in nature, and I can't remember the word he used now, but they path dependency, basically. So for X to occur, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way has to happen, and there's a path dependency. And if that path is altered, you have a different outcome. Now, Bitcoin has emerged as what it is, which is sound, scarce, finite digital money, because of the path dependency. It was, circulated to the cypherpunks in the beginning. It was launched in 2008. It was done by a pseudonymous or an anonymous founder. It was, bled into the community at a specific time, place, and rate. It had specific rules in the beginning that it was that were associated with it around the fixed supply and around all that sort of stuff. This is a path. This is a life or a period of time that just can't be replicated again. Like, if you take that magic that was Bitcoin in the first few years and try and do it again, you can't, because we now know that Bitcoin's there. Like, it relates to Peter Thiel's saying, the 0 to 1 moment, where he talks about in his famous book called 0 to 1. He says the next Mark Zuckerberg won't create a Facebook, the next Bill Gates won't build another Microsoft, the next Steve Jobs won't build another Apple. They're going to invent something new. And Bitcoin was the 0 to 1 innovation. We're not going to have another 0 to 1 in the monetary space. Maybe not for another couple hundred years, or maybe another 1,000 years, because we don't need it. Like, we had physical scarcity, which was represented by gold, and that was the best object for thousands of years to represent our time and labor, which is money. Now we've cracked the code for digital scarcity, and that is also a one-time event. And it was created in the perfect, like, the events and the way they occurred and how it all happened is non-reproducible, and it's a path-dependent emergent phenomenon, which no Vitalik, no government, no central bank, no one can replicate that natural emergent effect. And as a result, Bitcoin has the most developers, the most intelligent cryptographers. It's got the most liquidity. It's got the most critical mass. It's got the strongest brand. It's got the most infrastructure built around it. It's got the most hash rate. Like, it's got everything. And these are all network effects that compound each other. It's going to steamroll over anything. I feel sorry for anybody who's trying to compete against Bitcoin, or who's trying to, buy something other than Bitcoin, because they're just going to get wrecked.
I don't know. Have you heard of Knut Svanholm? Do you know this guy?
Yes. We follow each other on Twitter. I've heard about his book. I haven't read it yet, though.
Oh, right. I haven't read the book either, but he was putting up this brilliant tweet. It said something about digital scarcity, that you cannot copy that because then it becomes worthless. So, for example, if you fork Bitcoin, like you basically just created 21 million new Bitcoin out of thin air. And what's the value in, like, I mean, just look at the valuations on the altcoins these days. They are insane.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's for air, for nothing.
Yeah, I know, like Wax coin or whatever coin you have, they have like billions of dollars in market cap. They aren't even used. Who even use ETH?
Nobody. No one uses ETH. What the hell would you use ETH for? Like, this is like, it's this is why, like, and I got some hate for this, but I said that Ethereum is in my mind one of the biggest Ponzi schemes ever created, because it formed the foundation of a series of other Ponzi schemes, 2,000 of which all sitting on shitcoin market cap, and all it is Ponzi on top of Ponzi on top of Ponzi. It's worse than what we had with the Federal Reserve and the governments and central banks. Like at least we get some form of quote unquote defense, or some level of basic horseshit service from the governments and the central banks. But like with ETH and the rest of these Ponzi's, like what do you get? Nothing. Like it's just such a dumb concept. Like, and it just goes to show that they have no idea what the innovation was. Like if you go out and you're creating your own token or your own coin, you tell me by your actions that you have absolutely no idea why Bitcoin is valuable.
Yeah. And the funny thing, I saw this extremely cool tweet from James Dunlop. Like this is also a long time ago. He basically said that all these altcoins, they are kind of competing on transactions per second, TPS. That's all they say. Like we can do 1,000 or we can do 10,000 or we can do 100,000 TPS. And what he was thinking then is like, yeah, I'm just thinking how quickly you will fill up a hard drive.
And like, I think I said this at a thing a little while ago. Actually, when the whole Libra thing came out, that to me was such a beautiful event because it just. I wrote a piece about it called, Bitcoin, Big Brother, and bullshit. And the idea was like I compared Libra with Bitcoin with the idea of blockchain, and what I said was Libra just invalidated every single crypto in one fell swoop, but at the same time it validated Bitcoin's existence. So, for example, Libra, and I don't know whether it's it's going to come out or it's going to be successful or not or whatever the case is, but let's go back to when it first was released. The idea was that Libra would represent a a quote unquote cryptocurrency or digital currency on their own blockchain, which could also do smart contract stuff. So all of a sudden, you've got a network with 2 billion people on it. It would make Ethereum completely fucking pointless. And they could do as many transactions per second as they want. So it made every single other crypto pointless. So all of a sudden, the things that these other idiots were trying to compete with Bitcoin or differentiate themselves with Bitcoin upon, all of a sudden became worthless overnight with the announcement of Libra. But Bitcoin became valuable because now all of a sudden you had this massive juxtaposition, which is one kind of money issued by the state or the government, another issued by basically, a corporate coin owned by Zuckerberg, and then the one single money that's left, which is the money of the people, which is Bitcoin, because it optimized for a different set of things, which was self-sovereignty, unconfiscatability, uncompromisability, and uninflatability. So it optimized for those things as opposed to sacrificing those key elements for stupidity like transaction throughput. Who gives a fuck about transaction throughput? Nobody's using this stuff yet. We haven't gotten anywhere near the liquidity that's required in any of these things for them to function like a medium of exchange type currency. That's going to take another 5, 10, 15 years. We don't need transaction throughput today. We need transaction throughput a decade from now. What we need right now is to build the base liquidity and the broad holder base of this asset long before we need transaction throughput. So this is where the big blockers got it wrong, and this is where all the shitcoiners get everything wrong, is that they don't understand again, they think this is a technological innovation. No, it's not. It's a monetary revolution, and monetary revolutions take decades to build. Or in fact, traditionally they take, centuries or millennia. But because this is a digital monetary revolution, it's going to take decades to build.
So that's a very interesting thing you said there. So, for example, you kind of touching upon the power of decentralization by mentioning big blockers and how, in my perception at least, everything big blocks leads to centralization.
Correct.
And if you have centralization, it's so much easier to shut down. So you have these cypherpunks like Adam Back and all the other guys from like the 90s and 80s. They are always, most of them, as my understanding is, they want the small blocks. They want this to be the people's money. They want the people to be able to control the software and run a node, because even though you don't want to run a node, you should always be able to run a node.
Correct. You're 100% what you're saying. So basically, the way I see the future is that down the track, as technology gets better, and if we maintain the current small block size, we're all going to be running a full node on our devices. And if you could imagine millions of people, inadvertently running a full node on their device, you're going to have a network that is impossible to stop. Absolutely impossible to stop. Whereas the big blockers, all they do is they make it impossible to run a node. So therefore, a couple miners run the whole show, and we're back to PayPal, just the slower, shittier version of PayPal. And what's the point of that? I don't know. I don't see any value in that. Like, Bitcoin's value is in the fact that nobody runs the show, and the show can't be stopped. And any monetary action on the network is nobody can censor it. Like that's the innovation there, and all these other idiots give up the innovation so that they can build a slower PayPal. It is so extraordinarily stupid.
Yeah, that's my perception of, for example, people who like Bitcoin Cash. They want this fast, cheap, and reliable money, but I think they are, at least my perception is that they miss the point. They want the medium of exchange functionality of money before the store of value, because if people don't want to store the value first, I mean, how can I give you something that you don't want to store? I cannot do that, right?
Correct.
So why would I even accept Bitcoin Cash as payment if you don't want Bitcoin Cash as payment?
Absolutely.
I think the biggest thing here is that it first has to be store of value, this collectible that we are now collecting as many Satoshis as we can. Mm-hmm. And then when everyone is thinking the same, then everyone wanna crave the Bitcoin, and then it can become a medium of exchange. That's at least my perception. However, Bitcoin Cash people think it's the other way around sometimes. That's how I've been, my experience from that.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. It's this is an evolutionary thing, and there's no point trading or exchanging something that is broadly not understood or broadly not valued by people, because it misses the point. I mean, the one thing I love about Bitcoin is that if you want to use it as a medium of exchange today, again, Bitcoin is permissionless. It doesn't care. You can do it. You can do whatever the hell you want with it. Like if you want to use it as a unit of account, which I think personally is very difficult, but you can. So you can use it as, it is all the functions and attributes of money are built into it. And all it is, it's just a matter of a human being with a brain understanding what attribute or what function is most useful at what particular point in time. And right now, me using my brain, I believe that this thing is amassing, or it's acquiring, or it's accumulating perceived value in the marketplace. And as a result, I want to own as much of it as possible before everybody else does. So I'm optimizing for its store of value function. And the attributes that I'm most interested in at the moment is its scarcity, is its portability in the sense that I can store it without having to think about it. I'm not too the divisibility and some of those other attributes are nice, but at the moment, that's not what I'm optimizing for. I'm optimizing for what matters for me. Down the track, other attributes and other functions will matter more, but it's a matter of time. Like the best analogy that I give to people is, if we could go back 5,000 years and we discovered some gold on the ground before it was broadly used as money, you would not have been able to buy anything with your gold. Someone would have laughed at you. You would have said, "Oh, look, I've got this yellow rock here. Can I buy a chicken?" And it would have been like, "Well, no, go fuck yourself. Like, what can I do with this rock? I can't eat it. I can't drink it. I can't wear it. I can't wash myself with it. Shove it up your ass." And that's sort of what people's perception is of Bitcoin today. They don't understand, what they can do with it, because they're not looking at it from the appropriate paradigm. And what happened with gold over thousands of years? That yellow rock could have bought you, half a kingdom. And the same thing's going to happen with Bitcoin. It's as it amasses this value as everybody else catches up.
Like, what does it take? Is it just going to happen magically, or like how?
It's not so much magically going to happen. It's going to just happen in waves. Like I've got a saying, which is, people come to Bitcoin for two reasons. They come to Bitcoin for pain or for curiosity. And the curiosity, that's like wanting to make some money, interested in what this thing does, blah, blah, blah. And some people will be intellectually curious enough to dig into it further and really find something else here. And for those who are intellectually curious enough, there is so much to Bitcoin that it's the only subject that I've found in my entire life that's managed to keep my interest. And my interest grows every single day, every single week, every single month. Like, I'm more interested in Bitcoin now than I was when I first discovered it 4 years ago. I've never found anything like that in my entire life. So you've got those people, or the alternative is people who are going to come to it from pain, which is the people who are ignorant today, who think that in their first world countries, nothing's going to happen to their currency, and the government loves them and is going to look after them, and whatever other bullshit idea they have. They'll come to it one day through pain, but it's going to cost them a lot more to get some Bitcoin. Or unfortunately, there's also the other side of pain, which is people who are currently experiencing those things in places like Venezuela and stuff like that, and they have a need. Like I know people in South Africa at the moment where the rand is it's losing 30, 40, 50% of its value every year. So they have some pain. They have a motivator to buy some Bitcoin. So unfortunately, that's really the two reasons. And it's just gonna take time.
Yeah, and I believe I'm on your side there, and I really think these days, as you see, all the Federal Reserve and all other central banks, basically, they are just like increasing the monetary supply nonstop. And you're gonna have this kind of exponential growth, hockey stick looked curve, which will, by time, turn into inflation, no matter what. When those money starts to get into the economy, that will happen. You're gonna have a much bigger pool of money fighting for the same goods and services. So each unit of currency will basically be debased. And actually, that's one of the reasons I believe people will look into alternatives. And when they start looking into alternatives, I think Bitcoin will be a strong contender.
Absolutely. In fact, the whole inflation thing is really interesting, because America's just got a unique position, because it basically it exports inflation to everybody else, because everybody needs dollars to price global commodities and stuff. So I actually think what's going to happen is we'll have a specific type of inflation, which is, I think, we'll have more asset inflation more than anything else. Because what's going to happen is all of this money is not really going to go to they're giving $1,200 to people. Like, fucking, who gives a shit, man? They're printing 6 trillion and they're giving $1,200 to everyone. Like, it's like, here's 2% of what we're printing. So the rest of the money, where is it going to go? It's going to go into financial instruments. It's going to go to hedge funds, to banks, to the upper side of things. And what are they going to do with the money? They're going to put it into assets. So they're going to inflate the stock market. They're going to inflate real estate. So all of these assets are going to get inflated. It's going to be ridiculous. And all that's going to happen is it's going to create a massive, massive, massive discrepancy And, at this point in time, people think they can't afford a house now. They think it's expensive. Give it another 5 years when all of this extra liquidity gets sucked up into all of these other assets. It's not that house prices are going to get expensive or go up. It's that the money's got to go somewhere. And it's not, property's not getting more valuable. It's the purchasing power of that money's falling, and it needs to go into something to maintain some purchasing power. So there's going to be all these dollars chasing a fixed supply of or a relatively limited supply of fixed assets that we're going to have a massive disparity. So it's funny, I don't want to sound like an anti-elitist, because I strongly believe in the right for somebody who's successful to continue being successful and to compound that success. And I don't think anybody has the right to take that from them. But the world we're living in is, it's no longer the success that, or it's no longer, success is, not as attributable now these days to skill and added productivity and added value as it is to being closer to the money supply. These days, success is more about being closer to the money supply, which adds zero value and zero productivity to the world, and as a result, just distorts the notion of wealth and creates a lot of the disparities that we're seeing today in society. With like a friend of mine, Haas McCook, he's from Australia as well, and he put a tweet out the other week saying, my prediction, the Dow will hit 40,000 and unemployment will hit 40%. And I actually think that's true. And that is a really, really sad state of affairs, because what that means is Wall Street's rolling in cash, Main Street is dying of poverty. And that's going to be a really unique form of inflation that I don't think we've ever seen in the world before. And I don't know what the consequences or the ramifications are of that, but I don't think it's going to be pretty.
So you reckon we're going to crash upwards or downwards?
Yeah. I think all of this excess liquidity, it's going to go somewhere. So I think it's all going to go into markets, and it's all going to it's going to go into stock markets, bond markets, and real estate.
All right. So then bonds, stocks, and real estate should then be pretty good holdings these days, instead of keeping your cash in your local currency, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the last thing you want to do is hold it in currency now. Right now, probably currency, because I don't think we've seen the impact of, closing down every single economy. I don't think we've seen that impact in the market yet. So once we start seeing some April data come out, I think we'll probably see the next leg down of this bear market or this crash. But on the other end of this thing, my gut feeling is that asset prices and everything is just going to reflate, because all that money's got to go somewhere.
Have you watched Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money?
7-8 years ago, but I got tired of him. He's one of those guys who just says the same shit every day, and one day he'll be right. One day.
Saying the things you were saying here, like we're gonna have this big disparity. The wealth gap is just gonna increase, and he predicts like we're gonna have nationalizing of countries again. Like we're gonna, like racism and other stuff will just get bigger,
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not a new insight. I mean, Ray Dalio's mentioned this a couple times with regards to things getting more politicized and more polarity, and these are the effects. So like there's this idea of complex systems, and complex systems being too too complex for us to understand how to manage. Manage is probably the right word. So I think two really good examples is the economy and biology. Like when with the body and with health and biology, as soon as you start putting drugs in it, or as soon as you start playing around with how the body functions, you get all of these weird side effects that are impossible to predict, because everything is so interconnected. Everything is everything's so complex that there's no way to test or predict or to know the outcome of any particular action. And that's the same thing with the economy. But what's very beautiful about these complex systems is that they find their own natural equilibrium. So if something happens that's exogenous or that comes from outside, its own feedback and balancing loops will help it find its own equilibrium, and that's the natural state of all complex systems. Whether wherever you look in the universe, or whether you look in nature, or wherever, and the economy is basically a macro representation of human beings who are all interacting and acting. And when you take a look at that as a natural system, again, you can't manage it. As soon as you force something in one place, you're going to have an adverse reaction that you didn't predict happen somewhere else in completely an area that you had no idea that it would have an impact on. And then you go and try and fix that. And then you fuck up something else, and then you go and fix that. And then all of a sudden you create all of these extra problems that it takes a lot more for the system to find its own point of equilibrium. And the more and more you try and intervene, the further and further away the system moves from equilibrium, to the point where you have one of two things happen. Either you stop, or the system blows up, it fails, and then you have a complete reset. And unfortunately, I just don't think human beings, or maybe not human beings, but I don't think the institutions and the way we've built the world today is robust enough, or I guess collectively prudent enough to stop going down the path we're going. And which is why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin, because it gives those of us who do see that disaster coming, it gives us a way to step outside of that, protect our wealth, and basically watch while this shit show crashes right into a wall. And after it does, we're going to be the ones who basically inherit the world and can start to rebuild.
And the gold bugs, like for example, or Mike Maloney is not that, but Peter Schiff, for example,
Mm-hmm.
he hates Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as we know, unless he's just a really really smart motherfucker who who has a Bitcoin stack and he's just saying shit. But yeah,
but he's saying that, so. But he is moving that towards gold instead of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to use a similar argument for gold, and the gold bugs have been using this argument now for many years. But the problem with gold is that you can't function in a modern digital world with something like gold that's physical, that trends towards concentration anyway. So it defeats the purpose of having gold. So when like for Peter Schiff's model to work, we need to go back 150 years. We need to get rid of the internet. We need to get rid of much of the modern technological infrastructure that we have. And in that sense, yeah, gold will work, and gold would probably be superior to Bitcoin in that kind of a world. But that's no longer the case. Gold's time came and went. We no longer need physical scarcity as much as we need digital scarcity.
I am agreeing with you, so I'm not gonna say I'm not agreeing with you. But I think it's interesting to take different kind of views on it.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I still hold a little bit of gold, and I guess the main reason I still hold that little bit of gold is that it's physical, and I haven't had the time to go and get it out of storage and sell it. So I'm a self-forced hodler in that sense for some gold. But luckily, I don't have too much left. I've got primarily I try and stick with only Bitcoin as opposed to anything else. But I mean, look, if something catastrophic did happen in the world, and and the internet went down and all that sort of stuff, it's it won't kill Bitcoin. Like, Bitcoin will still exist, but maybe the need for a physical form of currency is going to be better. But I mean, at that stage, like, if something that catastrophic were to happen, my guess is that lead would probably be more more valuable than gold, because people are going to need some bullets and they're going to want to protect themselves more than have some gold. So I don't know, like, gold is like the hedge for like something really catastrophic to happen that sends us back 150 years.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I mean, even though you said you are holding some gold these days, and it's been performing pretty well recently, so you're pretty good at it as well.
Yeah, I mean it's a nice little side benefit to have. But like there's Jim Rogers, he's that old, he's another gold bug, and I mean he's always said like I buy gold but I never sell it. So it's just one of those things that if you got some, I mean, unless you're selling it for Bitcoin, like I don't know what else you would really sell it for.
That's true. That's true. That's the second hardest money we have in the world.
It is, and like I said, like unless we go into like Armageddon where we blow up our electricity grids and blow up the internet, my guess is that gold would lose a lot of its monetary premium, but I think it'll exist as a physical collectible, and that may allow it to maintain some form of premium. But we're a long way away from Bitcoin being broadly recognized as hard money, and as a result, gold's still got a bit of time in it. But yeah, I wouldn't. In a world where Bitcoin is able to function, gold has no place basically, because it's just, or it doesn't hold the weight, or the gravity that it has today.
All right, all right. Time is running away, Alex. I want to talk more with you, but I think we can catch up on another episode.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
before we finish up here, I want to have your view on where are we going from here with Bitcoin?
In what sense? Technically speaking, economically speaking?
Technically, I don't think there are so many people interested in watching my channel, so I guess they are interested in the price mostly. So if you have any prediction around the price.
Yeah, look, not so much predictions around the price. I mean, I think over the long term, Bitcoin, will be, in today's dollar terms, valued at least 10 million a coin. That's my guess. I think it's going to be, one of the most valuable things a person can hold. That I don't think that's coming soon. If anything, we're probably at least a decade away from it being worth $1 million. But who knows?
Are you basing your perception like it's $1 million each? Is that because of the debasement of dollar or the appreciation in value of Bitcoin, or a combination?
It's always a combination, because you can't split the two apart, right? So it's going to be like the same way as real estate and stocks and everything are going to go up because of all of this extra flood of money. Basically, with all of this excess capital, some of it is going to be chasing Bitcoin. And the beauty of it is you don't need that much to drive Bitcoin up 5x, 10x, 20x, 100x. Whereas you need a hell of a lot more to drive asset prices up in Apple or all of that other shit. Like, I mean, just one company, Apple, is worth 1.2 trillion, whereas Bitcoin's market cap is 200 billion. Like, I mean, like it's going to take a hell of a lot less money to drive Bitcoin's valuation up 10x, and 10x from here is what are we at today? Like 7,000 US. So you're talking 70,000 US. So I honestly think this next wave over the next year, 2, 3, we'll see at least 10 to 20x up on Bitcoin, and that will be as a result of all this extra capital flowing around. But at the same time, more and more people are going to realize that Bitcoin's extremely valuable as an asset. So it's gonna be a mixture of both.
I see. Thanks for your prediction. So
For sure.
before leaving, like, what's your advice to newbies?
Man, it's think of it like you're collecting gold before everybody else realized it was available, or before everybody realized it was money. So think that everybody else is still using shells or salt or whatever other rudimentary form of money, and you're the smart guy who's found this yellow shiny metal that you are able to collect before everybody else. So treat Bitcoin the same way. Collect it every week, every time you have a little bit of spare money. And this is why I built Amber, and will be available in Europe in the next hopefully 6 weeks. So people in Sweden and everywhere else will be able to use it, or as long as they're denominated in euros, that is. You want to collect as much Bitcoin as you can. So start small. $10 a day, $50 a week, $100 a month, whatever you have spare, just allocate some to Bitcoin and just keep putting some away. And very importantly, continue listening to things like podcasts like this. There's a lot of good content that's been written out there. I try and produce as much as I can, and there's other good writers that I've mentioned like Robert Breedlove, Seyfedin Amos, and stuff like that I recommend people have a look at, and really just get your head around what's happening from an evolutionary and revolutionary standpoint today with Bitcoin, because that's what's going to set you apart from the rest of the people in the world, and setting yourself apart has always been the recipe for success. If you do what everybody else is doing, you're gonna get what everybody else has got, which is jack shit.
True. So where do they find more about you, Aleks?
Primarily spend my time shit posting on Twitter. I'm a little bit brutal on Twitter, so I apologize in advance, but it's at Aleks Svetski. I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes, but ALEKSSVETSKI. And it's the same tag for my Medium and my Hackanoon and everything like that, which is the blogs that I generally write on. But if you put my name into Google, you'll find a bunch of stuff on me anyway. There's talks there. I've got a bunch of talks on YouTube. I got a little ebook that I published on Amazon, which you can get it off the Kindle store, or if you just ping me on Twitter, I'll give you a copy for free. So loads of stuff.
That's awesome. And I'll also make sure to put up the Why Bitcoin Matters article that you've been writing down.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Aleks. It was great.
Much appreciated, Alex. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thank you.